I said last night the Queensland government has now banned giving puberty blockers to children who think they're transgender until it hears from an inquiry into how they're given out, because there's been a bit of a scandal about that. Meanwhile, overnight, US President Donald Trump signed another executive order, and this time banning gender transitions for people in the United States under the age of 19. He says it is the policy of the United States that it will not fund, sponsor, promote, assist or support the so-called transition of a child from one sex to another, and it will rigorously enforce all laws that prohibit or limit these destructive and life-altering procedures. Now, what's banned in his case are puberty blockers, the use of hormones such as estrogen or testosterone, and surgery to supposedly change a child's sex. Now, this whole transgender industry is really on the back foot. It's under the spotlight like never before. We saw it with the Cass inquiry in Britain last year, warning that many children who were diagnosed as supposedly, transgender in the wrong body, seemed in fact to have other things which could explain that feeling. Autism was a big one, or a same-sex attraction, or they were from broken homes, something like that. Well, joining me is Jillian Spencer, who tried to raise her concerns with how Queensland's Children's Gender Service was dealing with so-called transgender children, and was stood down as a senior child psychologist at the Queensland Children's Hospital. Jillian, great to see you. Thanks for coming on. The new Queensland government has now stopped giving puberty blockers to children who claim they're transgender until it hears from an inquiry into this. Do you feel vindicated in some way?
Oh, I feel relieved. I'm very relieved about the Queensland LNP government's decision yesterday. And it gives me hope because finally we seem to have some politicians who have the courage to do what is right and to stare down any ridiculous allegations of transphobia, because this really is a child protection issue. And all we want is for the services for children with gender distress to be evidence-based and to not cause the serious lifelong harms that we know that puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones and gender surgeries do. And I'm super relieved that the government has taken charge, because one of the most disturbing things I've seen in recent years is the lack of courage of people occupying senior roles in the hospital. And it really isn't right how many people kept quiet about the harms being done to children in the gender clinic. So yes, I think that senior hospital executives' heads should roll over this issue.
Yeah, I know a prominent doctor who told me over the break how he was going around his hospital saying, listen guys, you're going to get sued one day, this sex-changing business, it's not right. You were suspended after questioning the use of puberty blockers at the Queensland Children's Gender Service, challenging what's called the affirmation model, which means essentially agreeing to the child's gender is what they think it is. What happened?
Oh, well, my concerns were dismissed and I was marginalised. I've actually been suspended now for 21 months. But going back to 2.5 years to mid-2022, I had meetings with my bosses where I disclosed to them about the harms being done to children through the gender clinic. And with the Queensland public interest disclosure process, the hospital gets 3 opportunities to decide whether someone is providing information about a danger, and if they are, then they qualify as a whistleblower and they're owed protection. But with my 3 hospital appeals, each time the hospital said that I hadn't made a public interest disclosure, and the reason they gave was that they thought that the harms that I disclosed, which were infertility, lack of sexual function and long-term physical health problems, weren't serious or specific enough to qualify as a public interest disclosure. So, yep, I think heads should roll because this hospital has behaved appallingly. And not just to me, this is to the parents and children of Queensland. So, yes, I've appealed that decision through the Industrial Relations Commission and I'm awaiting a judgment.
Well, good on you. We did ask the hospital for their side of the story. They haven't responded, so that's that. Jillian Spencer, thank you so much for fighting on this very, very important issue.